Epstein's an anomaly. He was the one bad billionaire, and now he's dead, so everything's fine. But really, you find out that history is littered with these people. They're the people really involved with a lot of the, political scandals.
What if the scandal everyone thought they understood was only the surface? What if behind one man's story was a hidden system quietly shaping power, money, and influence for decades? At first, the Jeffrey Epstein case looked straightforward.
Jeffrey Epstein, why he's involved in this intelligence financial stuff and Iran-Contra stuff and Adnan Khashoggi, he's also getting involved in real estate. In the 90s and the early 2000s, they don't call him like billionaire or like financial advisor or any of these other terms that are used later. They call him property developer.
A wealthy man surrounded himself with powerful friends. He was arrested. The world reacted with shock and confusion. That is the version most people remember. But when investigative journalist Whitney Webb began examining public records, old news reports, and financial documents, she noticed something strange. The public image of Epstein as a mysterious billionaire did not match how he was described in earlier years. In the 1990s and early 2000s, several media outlets referred to him not as a financier, but as a property developer. That small detail changes everything. As we all know, real estate is not just about buildings, it's about money movement, ownership structures, and sometimes concealment. And once you begin pulling on that thread, the story starts to widen.
He's actually in the late 80s sharing offices with a real estate family with ties, alleged ties to organized crime called the Gulettas, really focusing on a lot of these markets. And he's doing that also with Leslie Wexner, who's also very involved in Manhattan real estate and all sorts of characters, and who's another big player in New York real estate. Well, that would be Donald Trump.
Epstein's early professional life overlapped with serious players in Manhattan real estate. He shared office space in the late 1980s with the Guletta family, who reportedly had alleged ties to organized crime. He also worked closely with retail billionaire Leslie Wexner, whose business empire included vast property holdings. At the same time, one of the most visible names in New York real estate was Donald Trump. During the early 1990s, Trump was dealing with heavy financial pressure. Around this period, Epstein moved in overlapping social circles that included investors and property developers connected to major international banks.
Barrick, Trump, and Epstein would socialize a lot together, hit the nightclubs together and all of this. And they're also working in, real estate and distressed real estate, because Barrick, I believe, also works in real estate.
Reports from that era describe social interactions between Epstein, Trump, and investor Tom Barrick. They were seen at nightclubs together. They operated in the same business environment and were connected through real estate deals and distressed properties.
Their supposed tiff that, ruined their friendship and all of this was over a Palm Beach mansion that they both wanted to buy. Why did they want the mansion? I think the person that actually ended up buying it bulldozed it or something, but it was probably not, because they wanted to live there. They wanted to use that purchase for something, whatever that was. I would argue it was probably, for financial fun and games.
One well-known disagreement between Trump and Epstein centered around a Palm Beach mansion that both men wanted to purchase. Their relationship reportedly cooled after that. But here is the question that Whitney Webb raises. Why were so many of Epstein's documented activities tied to property? Real estate is one of the most effective ways to move large sums of money quietly, as we all know. It allows funds to pass through shell companies. It creates layers of ownership that are difficult to trace. It offers legitimacy on paper. If Epstein was involved in financial crimes, as multiple investigations suggest, real estate would have been an ideal tool. That possibility shifts the narrative from scandal to system.
If you ask me about Jeffrey Epstein's involvement in real estate, he was most likely using it to facilitate the other financial crimes in which he was, or most likely engaged at distinct periods in his career, because real estate is a really useful way to launder money for a lot of people.
Property is rarely just about location. It is about leverage. When large estates, luxury apartments, and commercial properties change hands, enormous sums move with them. Loans are structured. Offshore entities are formed. Partnerships are created that exist only on paper. Whitney Webb's research highlights how Epstein's identity as a property developer appears consistently in earlier reporting.
And Epstein, over the course of his career, was very involved in money laundering. So, that's probably why. But, their supposed tiff that, ruined their friendship, Palm Beach mansion that they both wanted to buy, and they were sort of got competitive. And, why did they want the mansion? I think the person that actually ended up buying it, bulldozed it or something, but it was probably not.
That suggests his role may have been tied less to investment genius and more to facilitating transactions. Property allows capital to flow across borders with fewer questions than direct bank transfers. It creates assets that can be borrowed against. It provides a vehicle for restructuring money that needs a new origin story. In this context, disputes over high-value homes take on a different tone. The Palm Beach mansion that caused tension between Epstein and Trump may not have been important because of its view or square footage. It may have been important because of what such a purchase could enable. When you look at it that way, the buildings become secondary. The transactions become the focus.
His media empire imploded, upon his death, but it was in trouble before then, and it turned out he stole this money from the pension funds. I think that's what most people, know about Robert Maxwell, but the story is a lot more complicated than that.
To understand this network, you have to understand Robert Maxwell. Robert Maxwell was a powerful media owner with documented ties to intelligence circles. His empire collapsed in 1991 after massive financial fraud was exposed. He died that same year after falling from his yacht under very mysterious circumstances.
So, anyway, they create this company called the McKinley Group, which produces one of the early search engines called Magellan. And Magellan makes all these deals with tech companies at the time, including Microsoft. The vice president of the McKinley Group is Isabelle Maxwell. Isabelle Maxwell is the person that makes those deals.
Official explanations included accident and suicide. However, his daughter, Ghislaine Maxwell, publicly expressed doubt about the official narrative. After his death, members of the Maxwell family became involved in technology ventures. Christine and Isabelle Maxwell launched a company called the McKinley Group, which developed one of the early internet search engines known as Magellan. Magellan entered into partnerships with major technology firms, including Microsoft.
That's about Isabelle Maxwell, because at this point she's in charge of a IDF ComTouch, which is basically rescued by Paul Allen and Microsoft, which invest a bunch of money in her company.
This is where the story becomes more complicated. Isabelle Maxwell later became associated with a technology firm called ComTouch, which had links to Israeli intelligence circles. Despite significant financial losses and weak performance, ComTouch received major investment from Microsoft and Paul Allen.
And, she's talking about ComTouch in this article, and is talking about her relationship with Bill Gates, which obviously precedes 2000, and we can assume goes back to this Magellan, and how, I can't remember exactly what she says, but something about convincing him to put money from the foundation into ComTouch or something like that.
That is where we ask ourselves, why would a struggling company attract that level of backing? Whitney Webb highlights the pattern. Money was flowing into ventures connected to a family already tied to intelligence and financial scandal. And at the same time, Epstein's name began appearing in unexpected places.
And they call him a property developer and all this stuff, and they say he made most of his money, most of his millions, because of business links with three men. And those three men are Leslie Wexner, Donald Trump, and Bill Gates. Bill Gates and Epstein didn't meet until 2011. What is he doing here in this 2001 article?
A 2001 article describing Epstein's wealth referenced connections to three men: Leslie Wexner, Donald Trump, and Bill Gates. This was long before the widely publicized meetings between Gates and Epstein years later. Why was Gates mentioned at that time? Public explanations of their relationship focus on philanthropy and later encounters. Yet this early article suggests some form of connection or perceived link existed. In large-scale real estate and investment ecosystems, relationships often precede headlines. Investors meet long before formal partnerships are acknowledged. Whitney Webb does not assert conclusions. Instead, she asks why these names appear together in early reporting. When real estate, technology, and finance overlap, introductions matter. Access matters, and who introduces whom can shape entire markets. Later in his career, Epstein positioned himself as an advisor in philanthropy. He presented himself as someone who could connect wealthy individuals to charitable initiatives, but Webb's reporting suggests his approach may have resembled financial engineering more than charity.
So you start to look at people like Adnan Khashoggi, people like Jeffrey Epstein stop looking like an anomaly. And a lot of the mainstream narrative about Epstein, fed by the mainstream press, is that, Epstein's an anomaly. He was the one bad billionaire, and now he's dead, so everything's fine. But really, you find out that history is littered with these people.
Impact investing blends profit with social goals. It can be legitimate. It can also create complex financial structures that lack transparency. Large philanthropic foundations move enormous sums of money. They influence research institutions and shape public policy conversations. Whitney Webb's central argument is not that one man controlled the world. It is that Jeffrey Epstein was part of something larger. For decades, intelligence agencies, organized crime networks, and financial elites have intersected in global finance. Real estate transactions, offshore accounts, technology investments, and political donations. Over time, these worlds have blended together. Epstein operated within that intersection. He was connected to powerful business leaders, politicians, scientists, and financiers. He was not an outsider trying to break in. He was welcomed into elite circles. When he died in 2019 while awaiting trial, official reports ruled it a suicide. But was it, though? His death ended the possibility of a public trial that might have forced deeper questions into the open. And so the narrative narrowed again. What makes this story truly unsettling is not one crime or one relationship, but the pattern. A property developer who moves through intelligence-linked families. A financier who appears near technology deals and nuclear facilities. A philanthropist who structures complex financial vehicles. A social connector who introduces young women into elite circles.